Siri, play Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Okay, Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast coming up.
Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 133. Jason KOGER, deer hunting despite a double amputation. The Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hi, this is Mark Hammer from Antler Action Products, and I shot the hammer buck, and you're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast, the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is Skip Peterson from Deerhead Archery. Gear up for another amazing podcast with Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Taylor Drury from Drury Outdoors, and you can follow us on our official Drury Outdoors Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account. You're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast on the internet, Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay, and I am joined by my good friend from Ohio, Dusty Phillips. What's happening, my friend?
It's great to be Dusty Phillips on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast, Jay.
Yeah, it's we had an unbelievable week last week.
Yeah, it was so unbelievable that I want to do it again like next week.
I want to do it over and over. Let's kind of set the stage of what went down and how this all played out, so everybody understands what kind of fun we had.
Yeah, we kicked off. Jim Keller come down to Ohio from Michigan on Monday evening. Stayed the night at my place. First time actually meeting Jim Keller in person. Jim Keller does the deer news here on the Big Buck Registry.
That's right.
And then we had some chicken wings at a local tavern and got caught up on who we were and met each other and hung out. And we come home and to bed we went. The next morning we were rising to Jay, Scott, and old Greg coming in from New Hampshire. And then we grabbed breakfast and off to the ATA we went.
Let me describe the trip down there. Greg picked me up at 7 o'clock in New Hampshire at my house.
7 o'clock p.m. on
7
Monday.
o'clock p.m., yes. And we drove through the night all the way across New Hampshire, half of New Hampshire, all the way across Vermont into the New York state, which, by the way, you hit I-90 for 430 miles.
It's a brutal drive.
It's a brutal drive. You go along Lake Erie, and then you drop down and cross Pennsylvania for just a few miles, and then you hit Ohio. And then it's basically going from the northeastern point of Ohio all the way to the southeastern point of Ohio to get to, or southwestern point of Ohio to get to your house.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the Midwest of Ohio.
Yeah. And it took us 13 and a half hours. The last 2 hours were the hardest because both of us were just reeling with adrenaline. Neither one of us slept the whole way. We couldn't. We were just too pumped up to do it. We had all our hunting gear in there. We had all our recording equipment in the truck, or I should say the Jeep. And we went straight through. We got to your house, grabbed a breakfast at one of your local breakfast joints. Had a great omelet, by the way.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And then went back to your house, grabbed a shower, and headed south to Louisville, which is another 2 hours, and checked in on our hotel, and then hit the ATA floor at the Kentucky Exposition Center.
Yeah, and that kick-started it all off there, you know?
Yes.
You guys retired. We had a great time at ATA for 3 days. Man, we met some amazing people, Jay, and, planted some seeds with some good companies, hopefully. And, it was one of them journeys that you didn't want to see end. But after ATA, we got done there, and that was all. Let's
back up for a second. Who did we meet when we first walked in the door?
Oh, boy.
None other than Griff Baute.
Oh, yeah, Griff, yeah. Didn't forget about you, Griff. I'd just seen a lot of people when we first walked there.
So there's Griff, who's one of our longtime fans and listeners. You had met Griff before, but I finally got to put a face to a name and meet one of the biggest fans that we have on the Big Buck Podcast. So that was awesome. We hit the floor and got a scope of what's going on. We sent Greg and Jim out to go get some stories and look for interesting things to bring back to the show. And then day one wound up. We headed out to a podcast meetup with the Outdoor Podcast Channel, Mike Adams, Carrie Z, Brandon Hammonds, and a bunch of other people that are coming into the outdoor podcast world who want to join on. We met up with Working Class Bow Hunter, not at that event, but the next day. And we just kept rolling with meeting different people and saying hi to old friends, making new friends, grabbing a couple photos along the way. But then this whole event, and this is one of the things we wanted to nail this one trip, was an interview with Jason KOGER.
Yeah, and real fortunate to find Jason online and actually be able to go back and kind of research the whole accident and what happened in his life. And, it really touched me that it's something that it could happen to any of us at any point in time, any day, any place. And the positivity that Jason KOGER brings with what happened with his accident is unbelievable. It's heart touching, really, Jay.
He's one of the most positive people I've ever met. And he still hunts today, even though he hunts with bionic limbs, basically, and can pull back on and can shoot a crossbow. So he's still deer hunting like he did before in a lot of ways, but he doesn't let it get him down. And now he's turning all those situations that he got himself into with an accident into a positive format, and gives back to the community for all the people that helped him out and to get through what he went through. So just an amazing individual. And we have the entire interview that we did with Jason KOGER right here on the show today.
Yeah, it's an amazing story and an amazing young man doing some amazing things, Jay.
Absolutely. So before we get there, let's have Jim Keller come on with the deer news.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the deer news. In this week's segment, we'll cover several topics from around the country. Our first topic is about high-fence deer hunting legislation in Indiana. The state of Indiana is developing legislation that would regulate Indiana high-fence deer hunting. Previously, the state court system last year had decided that Indiana has no authority to regulate these facilities. This bill would provide at least some guidelines and hopefully keep these matters out of the court system. The proposed bill would allow an unlimited number of preserves, all under the authority of the Board of Animal Health. It would require new reserves to be at least 100 acres and have fences at least 8 feet high. It also mandates the reporting of disease and escape. The Senate committee approved the bill 8-1. For more information, please check the Indiana-based public media website at www.wfyi.org. Our next segment is about a Missouri youth deer hunter who harvested 2 deer with 1 shot. The Springfield News Leader newspaper reports that 7-year-old Cash Cook of Houston, Missouri, recently harvested 2 deer with 1 shot. The deer were over 70 yards away, and Cash shot them on his first deer hunt ever. He was hunting on his family farm with his father Eric and originally spotted the deer about 300 yards away. When a big doe moved close enough for a shot, Cash aimed his single-shot .243 at her neck and fired. When he and his father approached the downed deer, they were surprised to find a second deer lying next to her about 5 feet away. It's unknown if anyone as young as 7 years old has harvested 2 deer with 1 shot. Cash indicated he will definitely hunt again in the future. Our next segment is about deer fleeing flooded areas in Mississippi and falling victim to poachers. The Jackson, Mississippi Clarion Ledger newspaper reports that as deer are fleeing the floodwaters from the rising Mississippi River, poachers have allegedly tried to take advantage of the situation. These poachers are shooting the deer as they flee from the flooded areas. The Mississippi Department of Wildlife has managed to catch several of the poachers who have found themselves in jail. The poachers are charged with a number of crimes, including exceeding daily bag limits, headlighting deer, hunting from a public road, possession of illegal deer, and shooting deer during a closed season. If convicted, these violations can result in jail time in addition to fines exceeding $10,000. Although deer season is currently open in some parts of Mississippi, the season has been closed in areas impacted by the flooding. Poachers have been apprehended through a combined effort of law enforcement and citizens who witnessed possible violations. If you live in Mississippi and witness these violations, you may call 1-800-237-6278 to report your concern. Tips are kept anonymous and the line is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. If you live in Mississippi and witness these violations, you may call 1-800-237-6278 to report your concern. Tips are kept anonymous and the line is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Editorial note. I did make one change to the article as reported. The Clarion Ledger called these violators quote-unquote hunters. I chose to use the more accurate term quote-unquote poachers. Our next segment is about the Vermont deer herd being as healthy as ever. Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department reports that harvest numbers have stabilized in the past 3 years, indicating a healthy deer herd. 2015 harvest numbers indicate a slightly increased harvest during the rifle and bow season and a slightly decreased harvest during the youth and muzzleloading season. Muzzleloading antlerless permits were decreased in 2015 by 43% due to back-to-back severe winters. The goal of Vermont's deer management strategy is to keep the herd stable, healthy, and in balance with the available habitat. Based on weights of deer examined at check stations, Vermont's deer herd is as healthy as it has been since 1940 when such data was first collected. For more information on Vermont deer harvest numbers, visit the Vermont Fish and Wildlife website at www.vtfishandwildlife.com. Our next segment takes us to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where the mayor has demanded higher fees for use of local police at the Great American Outdoors Show. The Washington Examiner reports that the NRA has refused to agree to a significantly higher fee for local police security assistance during the Great American Outdoors Show. The Great American Outdoors Show is an annual event that has traditionally been held in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The show attracts 200,000 people to Harrisburg and has a $70 million impact on the local economy. Harrisburg Mayor Eric Pappenfuse requested $250,000 over the next 5 years for security assistance from the Harrisburg Police Department. This fee, in part, would help to cover overtime for the officers working at the show. According to NRA bylaws, it is illegal for the NRA Foundation to award multi-year grants. However, the NRA did donate a $50,000 police cruiser to the HPD last year. In addition, the NRA also makes annual donations to several central Pennsylvania organizations, including the National Civil War Museum, and so they will continue to do so. The NRA rescued the show after it was canceled in 2013 when several exhibitors pulled out. At the same time, the NRA also signed a 5-year deal with the city, mayor, and police chief to hold the event in Harrisburg. The 2016 Great American Outdoor Show will still occur on February 6 through 14 at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex. This concludes this week's edition of the Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim Keller with the Deer News. And without further ado, here is Jason KOGER. Jason KOGER, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It was pretty psyched to have you on the show. Heard lots of great things about you, and you're a pretty funny guy, actually. Been cutting up a little bit.
Yeah, catching your attention right away. You know, as soon as I met Jason, you connect with him. You just got a great personality.
Last time I wore a shirt, it said, "Look, Ma, no hands," or "Don't shoot, I'm unarmed."
Right.
Yeah, that does it. You know, and that makes people comfortable to approach you when you have fun with it. You know,
Absolutely.
You know, everybody has a chance of having a freak accident, and you make it a little easier to be able to socialize with you.
Absolutely,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Just tell us about yourself. Where do you reside? Where are you from?
All right, so my name's Jason KOGER. I live in Owensboro, Kentucky, and that's where I live today still. I was born and raised on a farm. My grandfather farmed 2,300 acres, and I've always lived in the house that I grew up in, and I got married. I married a girl named Jenny KOGER now, and we moved to town, and we weren't in town just a couple years, and I decided I was going to kick my mom and dad out of their house. So I kicked them out. And right next door to my house was my cousin or my uncle. So my cousin did the same thing. So now me and my cousins are raising our kids in the same house as we were raised up in. So
Gotcha.
Pretty neat little story. You know, we're all right next door to each other.
Oh, of course, the prerequisite for being on the show is that you have to be a deer hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get to that deer hunter story in a little bit. But
Absolutely.
You have a fascinating story behind you, and that you deer hunt today. You deer hunted probably your whole life, is my guess. I would assume that.
Yep.
Most deer hunters are that way. Not all, but most. But you have a fascinating story. Could you tell us a little bit about what went down and how it all happened?
Yeah. So I had just moved to the house of my mom and dad's, and I've been around that farm my entire life. You know, I was 29 years old at the time of my accident. So, you know, it wasn't like I was in a strange place. And so I decided to go on a four-wheeler ride. It was March 1st, 2008. I was just going to go literally from, you know, it's my house my cousin's house, and then my grandfather's house. And there's a little dirt road that goes from my driveway, and it goes around the farm, and it ends up at my granddad's driveway without getting on the road. So literally it was going to be a 5-minute ride. It was the first warm day of the year. And on that ride, I ran into a down power line. It was about 30 inches off the ground, and it hit me just right where it landed on top of the gas tank on my four-wheeler, which was in between the handlebars and my body. But it didn't electrocute me right then. So trying to get off of the line, I was backing up, and that's whenever it hit me. So I took 7,200 volts of electricity, went through my body.
Holy smokes.
So, and I knew I was getting electrocuted at the time, and I woke up. When I woke up, I was on the ground. So it actually stopped my heart for 30 seconds,
Okay.
which was the best thing that could have happened. They said that, if your heart ever gets into like a flutter, it doesn't know that it's not working right, and that's not a good thing. That's when most people die. So with it to stop completely, my body knew that my heart was stopped, and it needed to start back up. So it knew that. Whenever it threw me off the four-wheeler, I hit the ground. They said I could have hit the ground hard enough to start my heart back up. So obviously for about 30 seconds I was unconscious. And then I woke up, and ambulance was there, cops, my uncle, all that kind of stuff. And I went to Owensboro Hospital, and then I went from Owensboro to Vanderbilt by helicopter. And, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, it's not that big of a deal. It blew my left thumb off.
Okay.
But that was it.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was actually a single-arm amputee. He got his arm caught in a corn picker on the same farm I got hurt on when he was 29 years old. And he had passed away just a few months before I got hurt. So, the whole time I was telling my wife in the ambulance that, I'm just going to lose a thumb. I mean, Papa lost his whole entire arm.
Right.
Thumb, no
Right.
big deal. So I get to Nashville with no pain medicine. A lot of people don't know what electricity does, but it actually burns you from the inside out. So I had third-degree burns on my right arm, but you got all this poisonous toxins inside your body that's trying to be released, and it goes through your kidneys. So by the time I made it to Vanderbilt, they said my urine looked like Dr. Pepper. It was that dark. It had that much blood and poison, going through. So immediately they had to amputate whatever they had to amputate, and for me, they had to amputate both arms below the elbow.
Gotcha. So the ramifications of being electrocuted didn't show itself initially. The visual that you got was something that your expectation was much different than what happened internally that you couldn't see, and that led to a double amputation.
Absolutely. I mean, the scene's not like, your regular hand either. I mean, it was all swelled up. My right arm, like I said, was third-degree burn, so it was, bubbled up. The skin was, and it was black and blue. It didn't look good, but it didn't look like they was going to have to amputate by no means. One thing that I was thinking, it actually ripped the tendons from the tip of your fingertips. Ouch. And I didn't know this until they amputated, but it ripped every one of them tendons off my fingertips, and all my tendons were wrapped up at my wrist on both hands.
Okay.
So my hands would have never worked, even if they saved them.
Right. So. Right. Wow. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
You have to live with this every day now.
Every day.
So when you're in the hospital, when did it kind of start to sink in that things are going to change for you?
So they put me in an induced coma for 3 days. I don't think they thought I was even going to live because I had so much poison go through my kidneys. They thought that my kidneys would shut down. And if that would happen, obviously, everything else would shut down as well. So they went on and basically told my family that, they just didn't know. They didn't know what the outcome would be. They had already amputated. I didn't know that. I had a fracture in my neck and in my back. Come to find out, those were old injuries.
Okay.
But for precautions, they had me strapped to a bed. And 3 days later, I wake up, and I can still feel my hands. I still feel my hands today. And I had no idea that they were gone.
Wow.
But I was strapped straight down to a bed, so obviously I couldn't see it. And a nurse was in there, and I asked her if she would get my mom and dad. My dad was a drill sergeant in the Army. And, my mom and dad's always been, just the best parents you could have and strong. And there's never such a thing of giving up. You just don't give up. So anyway, Dad walks in the room, and my mom, and he told me, the first thing he told me was, "We're gonna get through this. I don't know how, but we will." And he said they had to amputate both the arms in order to save your life. And man, it was that those first few words was obviously devastating. Tear went down my face, and And, I don't know. I think I sat there and I thought, how's my life going to change? I mean, am I going to be able to ever feed myself or put my clothes on or, anything that everybody takes for granted, I took for granted.
Right.
And the whole time, man, I just thought about my kids, and at the time of my accident, I had a 21-month-old and a 3-month-old little girl. Today I have 3 kids. I got a little boy now, but, I just kept on thinking about them, and I was a very blessed person to have a dad in my life, and a lot of people don't. So I think that, I seriously thought that, my kids got to have a dad, man. That's whatever.
That was your drive.
Yep, that's it.
Right. That was the motivating factor.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can feel your hands today, you said. So
Yep.
it doesn't. Your brain thinks that you have hands.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, by God, he does. Look at it.
That's right.
absolutely does. The technology that's gone in
Oh, it's
to
crazy.
this stuff today is mind blowing.
Absolutely.
But you still feel your fingers. You can feel like you're moving them, and
So where my nubs or where my arms are amputated at,
Yes.
my hands feel like they are right there.
gotcha.
So they feel like they're really, really short.
Right.
So, but I can feel my thumbs, my fingers.
Interesting.
People talk about phantom pain.
Right.
I do have phantom pain sometimes.
Okay.
And what phantom pain feels like is somebody stabbing you with a knife, and it depends on where it is. It might be your pinky, it might be your thumb, it might be the palm of your hand. It's always somewhere different. But mainly that's when weather changes.
The weather changes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
when it bothers me.
That's when it comes about. Okay, gotcha. Let's talk about some of that technology, Dusty. You want to kind of get into what is there that Jason's using today? We saw you open a bottle of Coke by a screw cap, which we have videotape of. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Just amazing.
If you don't mind, Jason, I want to start out. We all are hunters, and most of our listeners are hunters. And start out from where you started at with what they did from the start, and kind of finish up to where you're at with technology. And today, I'm giving everybody a visual that you can walk up to Jason and shake his hand. That means a lot for you. I know.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's something that if you didn't know the story and you didn't know the situation, you wouldn't even recognize it. If you was just walking up and saying, "Hey," it would. Until you actually touch the hand, you would never know.
Sometimes it scares them to death, too.
Yeah, and it fits you.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I don't wish bad upon anybody, but your personality and what you got going on, man, it fits you to the T.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the interesting thing.
So,
where did it start out at? And I don't want to get too deep in your story, but so, let's go to somewhere around the month after.
okay, so right before the month after my accident, obviously I was in the hospital for 12 days, and I was released. This is one story I think everybody loves. My doctor told me that I'd be in the hospital for at least 2 months, and I told him that wasn't going to happen. I had to drive to get home. I wanted to get home with my kids, and he told me, he said, well, if you think of one goal that you want to reach, tell me what it is. And I said, all right, got that figured out. And he said, what is it? And I think most people would think, I'm going to feed myself, dress myself, hunt, whatever it is. And I told him, I said, I got 2 kids at home. And I said, if I can hold my kids again, everything will be all right. I don't care if you can put your pants on. I don't care if I can feed myself. All that stuff will come eventually, but I got to be able to hold my kids. That's number one. So before I got out of the hospital, that's exactly what I did. I held my kids. I held my 3-month-old in my arms or in my nubs, and fed them a bottle with, the bottle underneath my chin. And so anyway, that was the best thing I ever did. So I got home 12 days later. And after I got home, I was doing the therapy and the whole 9 yards. I was looking into prosthetics. I found these prosthetics online. They were called the Touch Bionics eye-limb hands. Mm-hmm. This was 2008, and I was like, man, I'd love to have those hands. They look cool. I asked my prosthetist. He said, there's no way. Insurance won't pay for them. Those hands are $150,000 a piece. It ain't gonna happen. So anyway, I kind of still told him, well, I want to try anyway. I want to see what happens. So in the meantime, hunting turkey season actually came up first. I got hurt March 1st, so April 26th was turkey season. Had a buddy call me. He said, hey, man, you want to go hunting with me? How am I going to do that? And anyway, we went to the woods. And so what I did was I took the 2 screws out of the butt of the shotgun, and I put a ratchet strap, and I ran the screws back through the ratchet strap. Had it strapped to my shoulder. I had a tripod with a radiator hose clamp holding the front up.
That's a beautiful thing.
And I had a string from the trigger to my mouth. And I've killed a lot of longbeards. And but that day, a Jake came out, and I killed a Jake a month after my accident with no arms. And, you know, to be honest with you, that Jake meant a whole lot more than any longbeard I've ever killed. So,
I'm sure of that. Absolutely.
So fast forwarding to that, I did that, and then I got a call from my prosthetist, and he said, "Hey, Jason." I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm coming to Owensboro." All right. So he came to Owensboro, came to my house, and he had 2 bags with him, and he handed them to me, and it was 2 eye limbs, 2 bionic hands. I said, "Well, how'd that work out?" He said, "Your insurance said yes. It's never happened before." So I became, not because I was the first, but I became the first bilateral arm amputee to ever have bionic hands in the world, which was crazy, you know, being in such a small hometown. And I think my whole entire life, you know, I decided that I was doing all this stuff for me. I wasn't doing it for anybody else. You know, I didn't want to, I mean, I do want to inspire people, and I hope I do inspire people to move on. But at the time, I think I'm sitting here thinking, hey, dude, I don't care if I show somebody how I'm going to eat. I just want to be able to eat. I don't want to be famous for any reason at all. I just want to live my life just like I was. And so that's kind of where I started.
All right, yeah, it makes sense. And, you know, where you was at in the beginning and where you are now, man, it's crazy, and it's a huge accomplishment for yourself to get to the point that you're at now.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
So you've had some more developments with the bionic hand. Tell us more about how that works.
So the eye limbs, the very first ones I got in 2008, basically work the same way as this one does. So kind of what happened, since I was the first in the world with 2 bionic hands, I got a weird phone call one day from Hawaii, and it was Hawaii Five-0, the TV show.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we are doing this new episode on the new Hawaii Five-0 called the Hookman episode, and it's a remake of 1974, which was fan favorite. But they said the problem is we need a guy, and he has to be a white guy with 2 arms gone with 2 bionic hands, and you are the only one.
It's like, so, well, that's me.
Right.
Yeah, that's me. Let's go. So,
Sign me up.
So
Hawaii 5-0.
Yeah. So I jump on a plane and go to Hawaii 5-0. I do the episode called the Hookman episode. Got to work with some really, really cool people. RoboCop, for instance, from the 80s. Got to work with him. So became really, really good friends with him. So anyway, 2.5 weeks, I filmed the episode Hawaii 5-0 with the original eye limbs that I had. Yeah. So that show aired, and after it aired, I had the company Touch Bionics, which is from Scotland, to call and say, dude, we've never seen anybody use those hands like you did. I mean, I'm building sniper rifles and all kinds of stuff.
No kidding.
So they call and say, but the hand you got's 2 years old. So they sent me a brand new set of hands, and had them for, I don't know, maybe a month. And then they were coming out with another brand new set of hands. And I became the first person in the world with those hands. Those were called the iLim Revolutions. And the difference with those is it has an app for it. So I can make it do a ton of different things.
Okay.
But in order for me to get those for the first person in the world with one, I had 2. I had to go on CNN. I went on Dr. Gupta's show. Then they flew me to Philadelphia. I was on Good Day Philadelphia. I went to Dallas, Texas. I mean, I went all over on this little tour to introduce the hands to the world, basically. So that turned into, holy crap, this guy's got a hand that has an app for it. So then I got another one of those weird phone calls from L.A., and
they're always weird phone calls when they're from Los Angeles.
Yeah. So they asked me if I would come to Los Angeles and help with a commercial. It wouldn't tell me the company, wouldn't tell me anything about it. So I got to L.A., and it was for Apple. So since I had an app for my hand, they wanted to do there's an app for everything type commercial.
There's
so
an app for that.
Yeah, so that commercial was on the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So, you know, things has just gone crazy, really, you know. And then, you know, I get home after meeting Peter Weller, and March 1st, 2 years ago, he asked me if he could come to my hometown. So he flew in, spent the weekend with me, which was the anniversary of my accident. And while we were there, I had a party, and I charged $10 per person to get in. And the next day, I ended up counting, it was $18,000. And I gave $18,000 to 7 different charities in my hometown. So it was, you know, cool to be able to do that. And then just probably 7-8 months ago, Touch Bionics called me again and said, hey, would you come back to get a new hand? Sure. So they've actually flew me to Paris, France.
Yep.
And I introduced this is the newest bionic hand out. It's called the iLim Quantum.
Okay.
I got this hand in France, and I became the first person in the world. I got 2 of these. I know I don't have 2 on them right now, but first person in the world with these, and I just got done doing another commercial in Mexico City that's supposed to air soon, and got a couple different offers that recently. I don't know if they'll pan out, but maybe.
Now, is this a prototype, or is this something that's actually this is something that's on the market? It's not in beta, so to speak.
Yeah,
no.
This
is working
on
now.
Yeah, it is now.
Okay.
I've had to send this back 3 or 4 times, just because I was the first with it, and I'd tear it up and I'd send it back, and they'd send me another one. So they're still working on some things on it, but it's great. The biggest difference between this hand and any of the others is it's got an IMO technology inside of it, so the hand knows where it is in space all the time.
Okay.
So if I hold my muscle open long enough, my finger twitches, and whenever I move it in a certain direction, it'll go into a different grip. So whenever you see that hand twitch, so I can go into
That's crazy.
pinch grip or whatever.
Gotcha. So what are you doing when you get it to do that? You just put it in a different plane, or it just...
No, so, I told you I can feel my hand still.
Yes.
So when I feel like I raise my wrist up in the air like that, that's what tells my hand to open. And when I lower my wrist like that, that's what tells my hand to close. So when I say hold open, I'm actually feel like I'm doing this. And when I do that long enough, it goes into that grip.
Gotcha.
And then I got wrist rotators in them too. So in order to get it in wrist rotate, you got to hit 2 muscles at the same time. So for me, it feels like I'm flicking my pinky out. And when I do that, it goes into rotate. So when I lower my wrist, it goes one way, and raise my wrist goes the other. It go all the way around.
So where your arm was severed,
yep,
there are points there that you're moving.
Mm-hmm.
So you're nudging.
You can do the same thing and feel it in your arm too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right. So you're actually controlling it with the pushing muscles that are existing.
Yep.
And it's activating that to go somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's your right hand. It has a white outer coating. It looks like it's plastic.
Yep.
Okay.
It's silicone.
Mm-hmm. And it has a grip feel to it, so you can pick up things like it's not going to slip out.
No.
Okay. The inside is made of
aluminum.
Okay.
And plastic.
Okay. And there's a motor in there, obviously.
5 different motors, 6 different motors, matter of fact. It's got a thumb motor, so the thumb I can manually move, or it'll move on its own as well.
Okay.
So.
And the batteries, how does that work?
So I charge it every night. It charges for about 16 hours.
Okay.
So I got to plug it up. And I got a sensor that tells you how much battery you got left.
Gotcha.
That's something new, too. I had my hand die one time. I was holding
here we go.
I was holding a drink, really.
A drink.
Yeah, it was. I was drinking beer one night, so I was holding this bottle, and it actually went dead on me. I couldn't get the bottle out of my hand, so I actually had to drive home like that. And then the next day, I woke up with a beer in my hand, with my hand off, my arm charging, and my wife said, "Did you drink beer last night?" "No." "How'd you figure that one out?"
The evidence is kind of strong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you can do pretty much anything with the hand that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up anything. Is there anything you can't do?
I cannot cook, clean, or change diapers.
Okay. Which
That sounds perfect.
not bad. Not a bad gig.
I know it.
Yeah.
Especially dirty diapers. I can't do them.
Huh.
Good. All right. Now
That kind of makes sense in a way, but
the left hand that you've got.
Yeah. Right now I wear an ETD. It's called an ETD. It's a battery-powered hook. So, I got wrist rotator in it too. The wrist rotators are made by Motion Control. The hook's made by Motion Control as well. It's Phil Hour. It's just all battery-powered now instead of the old-time. I have the old-timey hooks too.
Okay.
I still have those with the rubber bands.
So you have
cables.
more or less a collection of different.
Oh, I got all kinds.
And you keep them, and you decide whatever you're going to be doing will determine what you're going to put on that day.
I got 5 arms hanging on the fireplace right now for stockings.
So you have 2 of the newer hands.
I do. I have 2 hooks.
Okay, and you just decide, you're not. Why aren't you wearing the other hand today?
The hook gets inside my pocket a whole lot easier, and the hand actually. Just show you real quick. So it just pops off.
Okay.
And then everything just pops on. So if I want to wear a hook, I just put it on, or hand, or whatever. And I customize. My sockets are made by Advanced Arm Dynamics out of Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
I customize all mine with pictures.
Yeah.
So I got pictures of my family on my arm.
Gotcha. So you put that on first, and then the hands are interchangeable.
Yep.
Plug in, plug and play.
Yep.
Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. So now that we've established that there's pretty much nothing you can't do. You can do everything that you need to do, and you can go hunting.
Absolutely.
So no more strings in your mouth.
Nope.
No more ratchet straps around your shoulder.
Nope.
You're pulling the trigger, brother.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I killed my first deer. I had one prosthetic at the time, and that was the first time I pulled a trigger with a hook. And again, the year before I got hurt, I killed a 150-inch deer on my farm.
Yep.
And after I got hurt, the first deer walked out was a button buck. And I thought, man, I can't kill a button buck.
Right.
But then I thought, man, I don't know. I got to try anyway because I'll probably miss. I didn't miss.
No,
and, I didn't get it mounted, but I sure thought about it.
Of course.
No.
Now, what? That was with a gun that you were using?
No, crossbow.
Crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So you're shooting a gun, you're shooting a crossbow. Are you shooting regular bows?
No, not yet.
Not yet,
So,
okay.
Whenever you hold a bow for me,
Mm-hmm.
bilateral arm, my hook opens up whenever I pull back. So I haven't figured that out yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I will. I mean, I can if it doesn't have as much pull strength.
Okay.
If it's got 10 pounds, I can do it. But not like a big bow. So I'm shooting Barnett crossbows. What I shoot, and they've been great to me. They sent me one, and I've been using it ever since. And to be honest with you, I'd rather use a crossbow than I would a rifle. And I do gun hunt some.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, man, I just take my crossbow hunting with me. And I actually killed a really good deer this year. Actually, the last 3 years I've killed good deer. I went out of state this year. I went to Kansas. I went to Midwest Whitetail Ventures with Mark Knight. He called and asked me to come up. And the first time I ever hunted in Kansas, and I killed a 140-inch deer this year, Big 10. And last year I killed one that, I don't know, I didn't even have scored his upper 130s on my farm. Year before I killed one, scored 152. So,
wow.
It's still possible.
All right.
Yeah,
well, we want
great.
to hear. We want to hear those stories for sure. So, has hunting changed? How long did it take you to get to understand how to use these things?
Not very long.
Not very long.
I was ready to go.
Okay, so you got the learning curve wasn't that long, and you were back in action.
Yep.
And has your life changed at all regarding hunting since this happened, or is it just kind of back to the way it was?
It's kind of back to the way it was.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that's different. Obviously, I was just at the Under Armour booth a minute ago, and I was telling Brian Offit, I said, man, you have no idea how much it means for me to be able to wear Under Armour stuff right now. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, for a bilateral arm amputee, and you start getting a bunch of clothes on, a bunch of jackets and all this stuff, once you get too many clothes on to stay warm, I can't shoot because I don't have the range of motion to be able to pull the trigger.
That's true.
The way I can, So, there for a couple of years, man, I got to figure this out because, as soon as it starts getting cold, I'm done hunting, and hunting ain't over. You know what I mean? That's that's half a year,
That's a mental struggle there.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
struggle's real.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was talking to a couple buddies. Man, you ought to try some Under Armour because they say that you can wear less clothes, less bulk, and stay as warm. So Brian Offit sent me a bunch of cards to get some Under Armour stuff, and I did. And man, I was hunting night before last. So I'm still hunting all year now, and so there's several different things that can change. And then obviously, I got my wife and my mom and dad always, you're hunting by yourself, because obviously I had to hunt with somebody. And then I went from hunting with somebody to hunting on the ground by myself to climbing deer stands by myself. And now I go to the woods, hunt completely by myself, and it's better when you have somebody with you, obviously, but
Sure. Yeah.
it doesn't hold me back.
Yeah, and it's not unlike, it depends on where you're hunting, obviously, but there's a safety factor no matter what the situation is. If you hunt the big woods and you're in the middle of the Adirondacks, it's better hunt with somebody because you just don't know, right? So safety it comes first.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Let's talk a little bit about you obviously safety is going to be a huge issue. How do you get safety harness strapped in once you get up?
So when I first started hunting, I was hunting pretty high, and obviously I'd have somebody with me, and they would actually, butt me in or buckle me in. Now, lately, it really depends on where I'm at. I hunted in Kansas and had some help do that. Some people have those retractables. Those are pretty handy, but still using the whole clip's kind of hard for me. So to be honest with you, if I'm completely by myself, I'm either hunting in a stand that has something all the way around it, or I'm in a box blind or something like that. I don't do climbers anymore unless somebody's with me, and I don't do the sticks anymore unless somebody's with me. So,
makes sense.
10 foot in the air, it ain't too bad.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's hear about some of these deer hunts that you've been on recently. So you went on 3 this year. Let's take a couple of them, and I'll have Dusty kind of pick your brain about how you're getting set up. What's in your pack? Is there anything different that you normally have, and what you would normally carry? Scent control, all that stuff. I want to hear how you set up as we dissect world-class deer hunters, try to figure out how you do your thing.
Yeah, that's going to be super interesting. We already know that you carry a backpack to the woods because obviously you got one right here with you today.
Actually, this backpack right here, Tenzing makes, and I tell them that for me to put $1 million worth of my arms in it, I trust the backpack.
That makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense.
So that's my arm bag right there. But I do also have a smaller Tenzing pack that I take to the woods with me.
What all do you take to the woods with you?
Most time I used to take rattles with me or horns or, a box or whatever people use. But since I've been hurt, man, I can just clean my metal hooks together and sounds just about as good.
No kidding.
So I don't have to worry about that. I take grunt calls with me. I take extra arrows with me. I always take my phone just in case something does happen.
Right.
And take my crossbow and take a water with me and a knife in case I do kill. And that's about it, really. For me, it's very simple. Very simple stuff. And when I get to the woods, before I go to the woods, I go on and crank my crossbow back because I don't want to be too loud in the woods, and I usually do that as soon as I get out of my truck, and I don't put an arrow in until I get in the stand, but it's already cocked, ready to go whenever I get there. So.
Right, yeah, it makes sense for sure. Let's get into a little bit about what kind of camouflage do you wear when you're hunting?
I wear a lot of realtree, so I used to wear just whatever, camouflage. And, I got to doing a lot of studies on different things and meeting different people. And Dave Blanton has been a true friend of mine. And he's always been, an inspiration to look up to. And got to know him real well. And he invited me to Realtree. And I went, talked to him. And, ever since then, I pretty much wear Realtree.
Oh, yeah, makes sense for sure. You talked a little bit about that you're packing a grunt call. Any particular brand of grunt call that you're carrying with you?
No, right now I'm doing a Flexstone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it seems like it's easier. You get those calls where you push a button for doe bleat and all the different buttons, but those buttons are way too hard for me to even mess with. So
right,
I don't do
think they'd have a programmable app right in your finger.
I know it.
You have any particular? You talked a little bit about elevated blinds. Is there any particular brand of elevated blind that you're using now?
Not on my farm necessarily, but I love the redneck blinds. Okay. I love those. Those are comfortable. They're big, and the biggest thing that I like about them is they got the big windows on the sides for bow hunting. Mm-hmm. Rich, I know it's intended for a regular bow, but works really good for me and crossbows. And I think it helps a lot with scent. When you become an amputee and you wear these prosthetics all the time, when you take them off at the end of the day and you sweat inside the prosthetic, it don't smell very good. You know what I mean? So you constantly gotta keep the whole scent control down. And I've been doing a lot of research on the ozonics, and I think that that might be my next purchase because I think those would really help me out. But I've tried several different scents controllers, and so far there's a scent control called Lethal, and Lethal's been really, really good. And seems like deer come upwind and I'm all right a lot of times. I mean, you still get busted, you still got to hunt the wind, but that's kind of what I've been using here lately. It's been good. So
gotcha, good deal. Jay, you want to take us down the road to a memorable hunt?
Let's talk about some hunts here you've been on.
Absolutely.
So let's you've got 3 or 4 that you've talked about already. Which one is your number one that you can think of?
This year I went hunting in Kansas last year, and it was 110 degrees, and I was hunting with John and Gina Brunson. I was actually on their show. Yeah. We never did see a deer. It was just way too hot. Yeah. But that was my first trip to Kansas, and I've always wanted to kill a deer in Kansas. And so this year I went back with Mark Knight. I took a couple buddies with me to hunt, and man, just to be able to kill a deer, out of state, and a really good deer at that. It just, that whole thing came together, and probably what meant the most was Mark Knight and I became really good friends. I mean, I feel like he's almost like a father figure now. He's just a great, great guy. I love him to death. And Mark wanted to see this happen maybe more than I wanted to see it happen. I mean, I think it was just about the same. But when I killed that deer, I was by myself, and I texted Mark. And when that deer came in, he came in chasing a doe, and I whistled, and he stopped. And when he stopped, I was right behind the shoulder. And Mark told me, he said, "Man, shoot him, middle of the stomach." I said, "I'm gonna shoot him right behind the shoulder," And when I hit that deer, like, I knew it was over. I knew he was dead, And it ran off. And I could see the blood patch on the opposite side of where I shot when he ran. And I texted Mark, and I said, "Hey, I just killed a deer." And he said, "Can you see him?" I said, "No, but I know he's dead, man. We're going to find him belly up, no problem." And he said, "All right, well, I'm on my way." He said, "It's going to take me 30 minutes to get there." I said, "I ain't even getting out of the stand." I said, "I want to walk with you. I'll recover this deer with you." And that's what I did. He filmed me. We followed the blood trail, and we didn't go 60 yards, and he'd belly up. So it was awesome, man, just to have that moment with Mark. I tell a lot of people it's not about what you kill anymore. It's about the memories that you make while you're hunting. Even if you don't kill something, you're not successful, man. It's awesome. So
yeah, great story, man. What other deer hunts have you been on this year? Or last year,
let's see. The year before last, I went on a hunt on my farm by myself. Yeah. It was during rifle season. Okay. One reason I don't shoot rifle anymore was this hunt, and I killed a 152-inch deer. But that deer came in the second day of rifle season. He come in 10 yards. I pulled my gun up. I pulled the trigger, and it just went click. I thought, what in the world? So I jam. I'm messing around, making all kinds of noise, pop a shell out, shove another one in. He's still standing there broadside. Click. Gosh dang. So, that happened 3 times.
I bet you were saying more than gosh dang, but all right.
I was tore up. So after 3 times, the deer walked off. I said, well, there went that one. Well, that dang thing came back in there. So anyway, I shot again. Same thing. I thought, man. So I got down to my last bullet. I was already mad. I said, I ain't going to kill this deer. So the deer was walking away. I said, well, I'm going to try him anyway. I whistled. He turned around. I pulled that gun up as fast as I could, and I pulled that trigger. And I don't know what made it go off, but it went off, and it scared me to death since I killed it. So that was a good thing. But I didn't think it was going to go off, man. It scared me to death. But that was cool, be able to be, I guess, that quiet with 2 hooks clinging to everything. Right. Or maybe he was just a dumb deer. I don't know.
But it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Deer do funny things. So did you ever diagnose what the heck was going wrong with the gun?
I don't know. I got all my bullets, and they all had pinholes in them. Maybe it didn't hit hard enough, so I took my gun, and I believe the spring had a lot of rust on it probably, and it just wasn't hitting hard enough. And, but that was my fault, probably not taking care of it. But anyway, you know how it goes. It happens, I guess. Things happen, and but I've had a lot of experiences with getting to hunt on some TV shows, like I said, addicted to the outdoors. And the first person that took me hunting on a show was Jana Waller. I was on Schoolbound TV, and it was a great time. It was in Illinois. It was Hadley Creek, and I think the funny thing about that, it was 100 degrees that week too. I get picked on these 100-degree weathers for some reason, but
and Jana Waller's a real good friend of ours.
I love Jana.
Does a lot for the people who are amputees and all kinds of aspects of life, and she's a big heart right there.
Well, I walked up to Jana. I knew Jana and Jim for a long time, but never been around them like by myself. So we go to Illinois, and I called Jim on the phone. I said, "Hey, Jim," I said, "film this when I get there. I'm going to say something." He said, "All right." So anyway, Jana walks up to me, hugs me. She says, "Oh, I'm so glad you hunted with me, da-da-da." And I said, "No, I really appreciate you." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I know you're going to have to help me, in the bathroom duties and all that kind of stuff." I said, "Man, I really appreciate that." And her eyes just looked at me like, holy crap, what'd I just get into?
That's perfect.
You have a great sense of humor. So you play with people, too, with this stuff.
Yeah, you got to.
What are some of the things other things that you've pranked people on?
I got a shirt that says, "Look, Ma, no hands." I got one that says, "Don't shoot, I'm unarmed." I got, I'll spin it around. I got a hand that looks real. It's got like real flesh and real fingernails, and I'll put it on and, raise it just right above the window when I'm driving down the road and spin it all around, and I'm always freaking people out.
That's perfect.
Fantastic.
Got to have fun with it, man. That's the whole part about life, man. You got to live life to the fullest.
Yeah. You don't know what tomorrow is.
That's right. And I think that everybody, including me, takes stuff for granted every day. And now that I've seen I mean, this stuff ain't supposed to happen to me. You know, I'm a good person, and I wasn't supposed to get hurt. I wasn't supposed to lose my arms. And then after it happened, I think I realized that I know why. You know, now I can give back, I can help people, and I can inspire people, and dude, that's the best job in the world. You know, it's so awesome to just be able to walk around and smile and watch somebody else smile and say, you know, I thought my life was bad, and it's not. You know, everybody's life's awesome. Everybody goes through trials, man. We've all done it. You know, everybody's got different stories. You know. Yeah,
definitely. So we like to finish with a few different questions. I didn't prep you for this,
gotcha.
So bear with me. If there are a million hunting tips out there, if you had one and only one that you could share that you think is the best hunting tip of all time, what would that be?
Get up and go. You know, I think there are a lot of people, they want to sleep in. They don't want to experience it. And not only that, is they think that they're going to go to the woods because they see all these TV shows. And all these TV shows, every time they go hunting, they kill 200-inch deer. Every time. They don't show all them bad times, you know. They don't show the times you don't see a deer. And if you truly love the sport, man, you know, get up and go. And you know, you're not guaranteed what you're going to kill. You know, you're not guaranteed to kill a big deer. But just go, have fun. And, you know, that's what hunting's all about. It's all about the memories of the hunt, not of the harvest.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're losing the passion for what we're doing.
Absolutely.
That's a great tip you just give there, and I hope the listeners really take that to heart from somebody that you know, has been through an accident and somebody that's going to the woods every day like yourself, Jason. That's not no easy task for you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I read an article the other day about this guy that's actually, I think he's having a suit against Barnett, and it doesn't matter if it's Barnett or anybody else, but he lost half of a pinky. And you see somebody, and he said in this article, I'm never going to be able to hunt again. And I sit there and think, a guy lost a half of a pinky, and he's never going to be able to hunt again?
Right.
Come on, man. Anybody can hunt, man. Anybody can do it. You just got to be willing to do it. That's it.
Yep. How old are you today, Jason?
I am 36.
36, all right. Knowing what you know today as a 36-year-old, going through the things that you've experienced in life, what would you say to the 16-year-old Jason?
Probably that, you know, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And, you know, man, I had my whole entire life planned out. You know, I was working for my dad. He owns a construction company. I was making really good money. I was running work. I was married. I'm still married. You know, I had 2 kids, had a house. Just got into this new house. And then all of a sudden, man, life put on the brakes, emergency brake, you know. And, you know, the first 2 months, man, or the first several months, I didn't know how I was going to survive financially. I'm not working. My wife's not working. You know, I'm home, got 2 kids, got a brand new house. And my community pulled together, and they gave to me more than I could ever ask for. And that's why I do my event, you know, is to give back to my community. And I just think that, you know, being 16 and not making fun of me, I was dumb too when I was 16. But you think nothing's going to happen to you. You're Superman, and you're not,
right.
You know. And you know, probably other than that is all the bullying that's going around nowadays when, you know, these kids are young and they see somebody that's different. Man, it's just, you know, they want to make fun of all these people that's different. And I'm different. I'm proud of it, you know.
Right.
So you just got to show them that you need to be happy with who you are and what God gives you, because He ain't going to give you more than you can handle.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So this is kind of, everybody's got one of these things, right? When you go hunting, you've got a special thing that you want to bring in the woods with you. It's like a superstition. It's a good luck charm. We all have these wacky things.
This is a good smile. Yeah. We may be getting an interesting one here.
It's like I can always tell we're getting into something. We're hitting a nerve here. What's that one thing for you that drives you nuts if you leave it in the truck?
My arms.
Yeah.
No, that was an obvious answer. So what else besides
You know, I don't know. I don't have a good luck thing that I take. I don't know. You just got to. Well, the other day I went to the woods and I forgot my crossbow. That was bad.
That's a bummer.
But you know, I don't know. I don't have any particular thing that that I have. You know, I used to race cars, and I did that whenever I raced cars. But I don't know why I don't do that hunting.
Okay.
I just don't do it.
All right, some guys have it. Some the guys don't have them. We've heard all kinds of wacky things, from little miniature walruses to the wahoo guy, whatever that is.
A pair of socks. Yeah. Somebody had a sock or something they had knotted up.
Or a buckeye. Some people are carrying buckeyes around. to educate yourself on hunting, how do you do that? Are there books you read? Are there magazines you engage in?
I watch a lot of hunting shows, and really just to get around and talk to these people, man. That's the biggest part of it. And I love all the people that's in this industry, but you don't have to talk to the Michael Waldells or the Jana Wallers. You can talk to just anybody and find out, hey, what'd you do, and how was you successful doing this, and how was you not successful? I mean, everybody got their tricks, and I just feel like watching some of these shows and asking questions is the biggest thing you can do. And
right.
Manufacturers, man, ask them, how's it work? Why does it work? And just figure it out like that. That's what I've always done.
Gotcha. Very cool. How can we find out more about you, the events you're holding, the knowledge you're trying to spread? Where would we go to get more information about you?
I have my website, and it is www.jasonkoger, and it's KOGER, almost like Kroger, just leave R out, .com. So it's jasonkoger.com. You can contact me through that website. It all goes through me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. My Facebook account, I think it's at 5,000, so it's limited. But there's a fan page,
right?
And I hate telling people that because I ain't got no fans. But anyway, I had to open that in order to get some more people on there. So and I'm very active on getting back with people.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I've always done is anybody's going through something and they call me, I get back with them in the first day. It just means a lot to me to help people out. That's what I want to do. All my events that I put on, like in March, I'm putting on an event in my hometown. Anybody's welcome. I just do that. It's on Facebook, too, as well.
Tell us about your event. What do you do there?
March 5th, I put on an event to raise money for my community. It's called Handing Back. It's a way for me to give back to the community. It was so good to me. And, obviously I've been blessed to meet a lot of people, and I try to get some of these people that I've met to come back to my hometown and introduce them to my people. Yep. And, it's like RoboCop, Peter Weller, the actor. He flew into my hometown, and I think he's the first actor that's ever been in my hometown. So, it's pretty cool to be able to do that. Yeah. This year I got a guy named Buddy Owens, singer-songwriter, Ray Stevenson, Jared Ashley. I'm talking to Lee Bryce's brother, Lewis Bryce. I'm talking to Jason Michael Carroll. I talked to Aaron Lewis today. That'd be cool. I don't know if that would ever happen, but you never know. Peter Weller's coming back. Just whoever I can get.
Yeah. And what is the event like? What are you trying to you're raising money? But how does it work?
You just pay to get in, and it's a concert, hangout. I don't do the whole silent auction stuff. It's too much. Yep. And I take the money of the people coming in, and I inspire people. I got people, other amputees will be there, me, and I do a little speaking. And all the money at the end of it goes to local charities. Gotcha. Last time, like I said, it was $18,000 last time I raised it, and I gave it to 7 different charities. I try to keep it local, but sometimes I want to do other things. And one person that I've only been around a couple times was, Rick Crone. And I wanted to send Rick something too, so I did that last time. And really, whenever I hear stories that touch my heart, man, and I got a board that helps me make sure it's legit and whatever, and I just like to give away, man. I just like giving money away. It's just fun to do.
Gotcha. So it's a meet and greet, meet some famous people, listen to some famous musicians, have fun, and donate to a great cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Jason, this has been an honor, man.
Yeah,
pleasure.
It's been great.
You're awesome.
Well, thank you.
We're fans.
Yeah,
we're giant fans.
Yeah.
Me and Jason get along real good. He's got a great personality, man.
Yeah, that's the best part.
I'm a real strong personality.
We could hang out for a long time. We could get in trouble together.
Well, this whole thing, I love doing this kind of stuff to share my story. I want to share my story with the whole world. And this hunting industry has been the best. For me to go turkey hunting a month after my accident, not knowing if I'd ever do it. And literally when that day happened, I thought, man, anything's possible, Yeah. And everybody's been cool to me, all the way from, Lee and Tiffany and just everybody, it just, I appreciate it. And, some of the products that are out there, I'd love to represent because I love this business, and I want to get into this business a lot more than I am.
Awesome. You're a true inspiration, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for being on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Had a great time.
Thanks, man. what an amazing individual Jason is.
Yeah, for sure, Jay. Man, just thinking of the story that we was able to record right there at the ATA show, and you know, it was a really meaningful story. And I tell you what, if you get a chance to meet Jason, it's something you should do, and his positive energy just flows right into you. That's for sure.
He's one of those guys that makes you smile, point blank. And he's got a great sense of humor. I mean, some of the stuff that we recorded that is not on this show, it kind of blew my mind about how he can make jokes about his situation. But just a great guy. And if there's anything we can ever do for him to promote his cause and raise money for his events, we're behind him.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. It's hard to find somebody with the positive energy he's got in the circumstances that he lives with every day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So after we interviewed Jason, we left the ATA after we had intended to do a little bourbon tour of Louisville, but that cut short because we went right to the last minute of the ATA, and we actually heard them announce the show is over. Please get out, basically.
Yes, we did. You know, crazy week, Jay, at the ATA. But I tell you, we wrapped up ATA and you know, like you said, the bourbon tour kind of got cut short, but we needed to get home and hang on tree stand in one of my woods.
Yep.
And we dumped some corn out and prep for the next few days of whitetail hunting in Ohio.
Yes. So we went and got a hang on, and that was for me to sit on in your stand above you so that we could both sit in the same stand and you could do some video footage. And you and I both know, and you're not a big fan of these either, but I don't like hang on stands. Neither do you.
No, not at all. I'm no small guy by means. And, you know, maybe if I weighed 160 pounds and I'd probably be more comfortable, but a big guy like myself has no reason to be in a hang on tree stand.
Right. And I'm not exactly a petite person. So they're a little intimidating for me to look down 16 feet and wonder if that strap's going to hold on the back. I mean, granted, we're safetied up with harnesses and all that, but there's still that whole element. I just don't want to fall. So we set up the hanging on stand for one of our places we're going to hunt. And then, we also made a stop with Greg at the blind that you had set up for us. And I got to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. I can't thank you for letting us hunt your areas. That's something that's not easy to do. But I know that means a lot to me, and to trust us to go out and hunt your spots and respect your areas. That's tremendous.
Yeah, I was thrilled to have you guys, and you're welcome in my setups anytime. And hopefully next time the weather will be a little better and the deer will cooperate, and we'll have more success than we did. But I'm super thrilled how it worked out. I'm real fortunate to have some good landlords to allow the hunting to happen for you guys, and it just all worked out, man. It really did. And after the first 2 days, we had another great experience that I set up prior to you guys coming down, and you want to get into some detail on that, Jay?
Yeah, let's go back to the morning of the first hunt. Greg and I sat in a ground blind on one of your spots for the morning. It was pouring rain. Thank God we had a ground blind. Then in the evening, we split up. Greg went back to the ground blinding, and I went to the tree stand with you. And as hunting goes, and granted, I'm coming from New Hampshire where there's a little smaller deer population, we didn't see any deer, but it was also 58 degrees, which is very unusual for late January and late season.
That put the damper on my deer movement.
Absolutely. Those deer were not moving whatsoever. So you had a plan for us all, and we were able to successfully set up and go south near Cincinnati and hunt with the great Mike Behrman, who shot the living room buck, and join up with him. And he was gracious enough to actually allow us to hunt in the same property where he shot the living room buck, the 200-inch living room buck, by the way.
Yeah. How cool was it to actually walk into Mike's house where that buck had the picture taken and actually see that buck hanging on the wall?
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience.
What blew my mind is that as we pull up to Mike's place early morning, it's raining, and we're expecting we're expecting all this heavy rain to transition over to snow. But we get to Mike's. He's just psyched to see us. We go into his house, and we can see the picture of the living room buck, which has become virtually famous on Facebook and was the premise of our entire show that we did with Mike. And as you walk in, you see the buck hanging on a display, But you also quickly realize that this is where the photo was taken, right here where I'm standing, where we're standing at 5 o'clock in the morning in our rubber muddy boots. We're tracking up his house, by the way. But we're standing in the very spot where that picture was taken.
That was cool, Jay. That was, it takes, I was real fortunate to meet Mike Bierman, when that buck was first harvested, and Ed Waite had put the score on it, and I wrote down, I chauffeured Ed down to Mike's taxidermist down towards Cincinnati, and Ed Waite scored the buck, and I met Mike and his wife, and real great people, and I couldn't ask for a better friend there. I made a lifelong friend with Mike and his wife, and to be at his house and have you there with us, and we took a picture with the living room buck hanging on the wall after it'd been mounted, and man, it was just a whole unique thing for us to actually go and kind of see where the whole story generated from. If it, that buck may never surfaced if it wasn't for being the picture of taken in the living room.
It was really interesting feeling. It was like visiting a monument, because of these stories that are so alive inside our head and from doing the show with them. And it was a special place. Like it was like we should put a plaque up there and a monument to commemorate where this thing went down. It was that cool. And the story gets better after that.
Yeah, we meet Mike and we get to shoot the breeze with him for a little bit, and we get our stuff ready to go, and he loads his 4-wheeler, and we follow Mike out to one of his best hunting spots where the actual living room buck was harvested. And man, did it start. We go out, we walk across the muddiest bean field I think I've ever walked.
Right.
And we get into the woods, and very grateful that Mike had a couple ground blinds and some tree stands set up for us. And that morning it was raining really hard. We go in, we sit, and I sat with Greg in first ground blind we come to, and you went on down deeper into the woods with Mike and sat in the ground blind with him. And
yes,
man, it was pouring the rain to start out with. Weather temperatures went south, got cold, started snowing. Man, it snowed hard.
It accumulated about 1.5 inches in less than an hour, I think it was. It was like a whiteout.
Yeah, it slammed us with snow. It was blowing in the blinds. We had a 40-mile-an-hour wind there at one point in time.
Yep.
Trees were whipping back and forth, and lo and behold, we sat there and the snow had come and gone, and finally things were starting to settle down, and I look up, and here come a spike buck into our setup there in front of the ground blind. And I'm guessing about 25 yards, and I said, Greg, here comes a deer. He's like, whatever, I've been teasing him all morning.
Right.
And I said, no, Greg, really, there's a deer coming in. He's like, no kidding? Just like that. And at the point in time that deer had come in, he got kind of like behind the corner post of the ground blind. These ground blinds were really nicely roughed in with some tree limbs, and they was hidden well.
I really like that setup.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I said, right there, Greg. He's coming around right there. Greg's like, I don't see a deer. And I'm like, it's a buck. He's like, really? A buck? And I was like, yeah, it's right there. It's broadside looking right at us. So, Greg's natural New Hampshire reaction was grab the rifle or grab the muzzleloader, yank it up fast as he can, and get on it. I'm like, whoa. You got to slow down, man. You got to slow down. He's looking right at us. And he still, at this point in time, couldn't see the buck.
Yeah.
So this buck was kind of watching us in the ground blind. He really didn't know we was there, but he was on a little bit of alert because the ground blind windows were open. I'm sure you can see the orange in there. So I'm watching him out the window, and he takes about 5 more steps, and Greg's like, oh, yeah, right there he is. So I said, slow down, just raise your muzzleloader up, get on him, and just take your time. He's not going anywhere. He was calm as he could be, and he just walked right in broadside, and Greg put a killer shot on this buck and smoked him. And
nice.
He ran off over the hill about 45 yards or so, and we gave him a few minutes to expire and climbed out, and man, it was so muddy. We like to never made it up the other side of that ridge. Oh my goodness.
You have some of the slickest mud I've ever slipped in Ohio. It's unbelievably slick.
Yeah, so it probably took us. I wish we'd had on video us trying to get up this hill. Really, it was unbelievable.
It's like spraying your rubber boots with WD-40 and then trying to walk across a recently waxed tile floor. That's how slick it is.
I'd say it's more like WD-40 on rubber boots trying to climb up a window on an angle.
It's crazy. I've never stepped in anything so slick in my life. Crazy.
So we finally made up the hill, and Greg's he's slipping and sliding. I got to get on the side of it and actually grab him by the coat and pull him up it. we get up at the top, and, sure enough, there's a real nice blood trail leading through the snow. And it was beautiful the way the snow was laid on the ground, and the blood trail was right there where we could visually see it from 25, 30 yards away from where the deer was actually shot. And we take off walking a little bit, and he's like, I see him right there. He's right there. And I'm like, sweet. So, Greg was fortunate enough to shoot a great deer here in Ohio. And everybody says, I had a lot of people ask me, why did he shoot a spike? Well, New Hampshire, there's very minimal deer, and a guy from New Hampshire comes to Ohio. He's thrilled to death to see a deer, let alone a spike deer.
Yep. And the meat is tremendous from those animals, just off the charts.
Yeah. It's a total different taste, and it's something that you really appreciate if you're coming from New Hampshire to Ohio.
I'm glad that my sighting in job on the muzzleloader that I let Greg use worked, because it's always one of those things that you never really know. So I hope to God it doesn't get out of alignment by the time we actually go to shoot this thing.
It was spot on, I'll tell you that.
Yes, it was. It was spot on. And my experience with Mike and the other blind was amazing. We talked about hunting, and it was really windy, and the snow was coming down pretty hard, so you couldn't really, the deer weren't going to hear you talking. Not that we were talking loud, but we talked pretty much the whole time we were in there. But as I'm sitting there, Mike was able to describe and show me, as he did on the podcast, the very ridge that he shot the buck on and how it approached his line of view, where he shot it, and where it ran up the ridge, or halfway up the ridge and fall back. That's exactly how he described it on the podcast. But I was actually in the spot and could see the exact spots that he described. I'm like, I was hunting in the same spot that Mike shot the living room buck.
That's crazy, and it's a real unique feeling, I'm sure.
Blew my mind. So literally, I feel like there should be a monument, but here's where Mike Berman shot the living room buck, and what year and how much it scored. Like just a plaque somewhere on that ridge. And I feel like we should have plaques scattered across the country for every great buck story that anybody's ever told us on this show.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, that was just a great trip. Thanks again for hosting us, and thanks to your wife for putting up with all our crap as we engaged in your house, and I'm sure disrupted the family life a little bit.
It's part of it. You got good buddies, you got to have them in the hunt with you.
Yeah, but what a great time. And we got to tour a little bit of some of the rest of the stuff that some of the restaurants and some of the pubs and some of the antique stores. And that was kind of an interesting trip too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Had a great time, and we'll do it again.
I can't wait for that. I just can't wait. Thanks again to Jason KOGER for joining us on the show. Thanks for hosting me and Greg down to your place and letting us crash. And thanks to the ATA for letting us crash their party too down at the Louisville Exposition Center. And I think that's pretty much all we've got to talk about this week, Dusty.
Awesome. It's been one heck of a week this past week was, and man, I look forward to another hunting adventure with you. And if Greg comes down, it'll be just as epic as his last one. Anytime, guys.
Can't wait for that, man. So where can we find you when you're not here with me on the mic?
Facebook.com/Chubby Times Outdoors. You can shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com, or you might check us at the SHOT Show. We'll see if that's going to happen.
See if that flies.
Jay, where can people reach out to you at?
All right. Best place to reach me is jay@bigbuckregistry.com for an email. You can reach us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. If you'd like to submit a photo for posting on the Big Buck Registry Facebook page and be famous for a day in front of our 220,000 followers, just go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and that'll give you all the instructions that you need to get your buck featured on the Facebook page. And we don't take them all. We review every single one of them that comes in. If it makes the cut, it will be featured. We also notify you if we are going to feature it. If you don't hear from us, then it's not going up. You can also follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. Instagram is bigbuckregistry.com/Instagram. And you can always listen to some of our past episodes on the Outdoor Podcast channel. That's outdoorpodcastchannel.com. And you can see what else we got. Listen, so if you'd like to donate to this show, go to bigbuckregistry.com/donate. I think that's a wrap, brother.
Awesome. Great show. And thanks again to Jason KOGER for joining us on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm Dusty Phillips.
And I'm Jay Scott.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.